It's the John Phillips Show. Johnny's back on Thursday. It's Randy Wang here. The phone number to join us is 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Search for the John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts. And if 3 hours of this isn't enough for you, you can listen to a fourth hour because I do a local show on our Southern California station, 790 KABC from 5 to 6 p.m. You can stream it at kabc.com or search for that show, the KABC News Blitz, wherever you get your podcasts. Well, now that the special election is over, the 2026 election has already begun. And sure, there's plenty of people announcing that they're running for Congress and they're running for state Senate. By the way, London Breed is considering running for Nancy Pelosi's seat.
If you are not here, FOMO.
And Christine Pelosi is considering running for Scott Wiener's seat when he runs for Congress. And even though some people are putting out a flyer on social media, it's a hoax. It's not real. Chesa Boudin is not running for Congress, at least right now. But it's not just who's running for office. It's also time to start thinking about what's going to be on your ballot. And if you are in the major Bay Area counties, there's going to be something that you're going to be voting on. That is a proposed sales tax increase for San Francisco, Alameda, Contra Costa, San Mateo, and Santa Clara. And what would that sales tax increase do? It would fund public transit agencies that are losing all kinds of money. We all remember when Scott Wiener originally campaigned to get this thing on the ballot, he held a funeral for BART and for Muni in San Francisco. Well, not everybody is on board with this idea of taxing ourselves even more to make sure that our public transit agencies don't go belly up. And to talk to us about this is the president of the Contra Costa Taxpayers Association. You can go to the website cocotax.org. Marc Joffe, welcome to the John Phillips Show.
Thanks for having me, Randy.
Let's start off with, Marc, how did we get here? How did all of our transit agencies, including BART, get to the point where their budgets are completely overblown?
Well, they've been losing money forever, but things got worse as a result of COVID. A lot of people stopped using transit during COVID. A lot of them didn't come back when they saw how dirty and dangerous some of the services were. And as a result, ridership for most agencies is way below what it was in 2019, and that's caused a revenue gap. And Senator Wiener has a solution, which is to foist the bill on all of us.
Well, and this isn't the only one, by the way, because there's this sales tax increase. And then I think statewide, they're still looking at putting a bond measure that would try to raise $20 billion to raise that for transit agencies throughout the state.
Well, they're always trying to extract money from drivers and other energy users, like through the what's now called the cap and invest system. So I think bonding that out is something that they might be looking at. That would be something that I'm sure high-speed rail would love, because under the latest extension of cap and invest, they have $20 billion of taxpayer money coming to them, but they can't spend that at once because it's coming $1 billion a year. So if they could issue bonds against that, then they'd be able to build the train to nowhere even faster than they are now.
Yeah, I don't know if the voters are going to sign up for yet another bond for that thing, but maybe stranger things have happened.
Exactly.
So why does your organization oppose this? If you listen to Scott Wiener, he says that we need this tax. If we don't have this tax, we're going to have to cut service on Muni, cut service on BART, on Caltrain, what have you. And that's going to mean a lot more traffic on the already beleaguered freeways.
Well, I think we have to take another frame. Whenever I look at the mainstream media up here in the Bay Area, it's always looked at from the point of view of the survival of the transit agency. Well, what about the well-being of people who are just struggling to make it in Contra Costa, Alameda County, and the other counties? So we have two cities in Contra Costa County that already have 10.25% sales tax. we have several cities, including Oakland and Hayward, that have 10.75% sales tax. So now Weiner wants to add another half cent to that. So you're looking at sales taxes in 7 Alameda County cities of over 11%, and then some approaching 11% even in Contra Costa County. And that's a tax that falls very heavily on lower income people. While food isn't taxed, clothing, school supplies, a lot of basics are taxed. And ultimately, we have to draw a line and say too much is too much. We just can't take it at this point. Now, with respect to whether this is going to be an Armageddon for ridership, or Armageddon for the transit agencies, and whether nobody will ever be able to ride BART again because they're not going to get this extra money, that I think is extremely debatable, and we can go into that.
Well, and that's part of the issue is, is anybody actually taking an objective look at these budgets? Because one of the things that happened, and you talked about how ridership fell off during COVID, which we do see, and we saw that homelessness increased because nobody was enforcing the quality of life laws on Muni, on BART, on some of the other services, VTA, what have you. At the same time, transit agencies up and down the state of California got massive infusions of cash from the federal government through all the various bailouts in 2020 and 2021, to the point where they were still living off of that bailout money through, just a year or two ago. And I got to imagine in those times, they didn't do a lot of belt tightening.
Exactly. Well, actually, most of them are just running out of that federal money now. And that's why first they are looking for this transit tax next November. And then to get them through that, they want a $750 million interest-free bridge loan from the state. And Newsom has sort of been back and forth on that, but in January, that's going to be decided. So you're absolutely right, Randy, that they did not really look as heavily as they should have at some of their expenses. They spend a lot of money that has nothing to do with moving people around. For example, BART has an Office of Civil Rights, so they're actually focusing on things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, which really, as far as I know, has nothing to do with getting people from Antioch to downtown San Francisco to SFO. It seems to have a lot more to do with virtue signaling.
Well, and not only that, but you look at, specifically with BART and their performance this year, with the budget they currently have, you would think they would want to focus more on reliability. BART has been shut down 5 times this year. And if you miss one appointment once, and this is how you rely on transit, you're going to find some other way to get to the Bay. If you cannot rely on this system, if it is not on time, it is not clean, it is not safe, people are just not going to use it.
Yeah, that reminds me of a tweet that I saw from our former state senator, Steve Glazer. He was stuck on a BART train going to SFO, and he missed his flight as a result. And that's one thing that's really dissuaded me from using BART to SFO. I live within walking distance of a BART station in Contra Costa County, and I normally have taken BART to go to SFO because it's relatively inexpensive and it's convenient. But I don't want to miss my plane, so I'm often now digging down deep for an Uber to get there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's another thing is, it kind of makes sense why there's so much money being spent when we look in Southern California at LA Metro, because they're still building out that system. They're still expanding it. Of course, it still doesn't go anywhere because Los Angeles is such a massive piece of land that it's never going to make sense. But, these transit agencies are completely built out. So where exactly is the money going that they're bringing in right now?
Well, in their imagination, they're not completely built out. So we have 2 real boondoggles up here. One is a 6-mile extension of BART through San Jose to Santa Clara. That comes in at $12.75 billion. And then we have a 1.3-mile extension of Caltrain from the San Francisco Caltrain station to the behemoth unused Salesforce Transit Center in the very vacant downtown San Francisco right now. That 1.3-mile extension is coming in at $8.25 billion. Now, they want the federal government to finance a big portion of that, but a lot of it has to come from local funds. So they are warehousing, sales tax money and other revenues they can get from everywhere to fund these unnecessary expansions. And as a result, I think they're not spending enough to just maintain adequate service.
Well, and another thing that never seems to get addressed when these agencies are crying that poverty, that their budgets are broken and that they need to start cutting services, you look at the people at top, the people on the board, they're all making a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, many make over $300,000, and there was a very famous incident that happened last year where the CEO of AC Transit, that's the bus system that operates in the near East Bay and has commuter service into San Francisco, they wanted him to leave, but at the same time, he wanted to stay around to become eligible for his pension benefit. So they came up with a deal where they sort of paid him to go away for 9 months until he had his 10 years, and then he would be able to eventually collect his CalPERS. And that cost riders and taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars to get basically an absentee CEO who had already taken a job up in Portland.
We're speaking with Marc Joffe. He's the president of the Contra Costa Taxpayers Association. You can go to the website, cocotax.org. If you just took the average person and you looked at the situation that's going on with BART, that's going on with Muni AC Transit, and you're like, okay, so you are a public transit agency, you collect fares and you service the public. If you are not making enough to cover your operating costs, shouldn't you increase the fares? What we're doing instead is increasing taxes on all the people that don't use the system.
Exactly. And I think one thing people need to realize is that we already pay a lot of taxes to these transit agencies. I mean, if anyone who gets property tax bills, take a look. You'll see that there are BART taxes on them. And part of your sales tax already, 0.5% of your sales tax is going to BART, and often another half cent is going to your local county transit agency. So there's a lot of money going to support these systems already from taxpayers, and ultimately we have to draw the line.
Well, and another thing that you want to look at is you have this potential sales tax measure that will be on the ballot, and no longer are taxes temporary. They're going to be in perpetuity. But you also look at that bond measure that's going to be on the ballot. That is a 20-year bond. That is borrowing money that we're going to be paying back over the next 20 years. When you look at all the advancements in technology and driverless cars and all the other ways to get around, it's very possible 20 years from now, these transit systems will be completely obsolete.
Yeah, exactly. I know you had an episode the other day about Kit Kat. And so, that kind of thing is being used by the, pro-union folks here in the Bay Area to oppose driverless transportation. But as we all know, human-driven cars run over animals all the time. What we don't hear from the other side is that the rate of accidents from driverless vehicles is a lot less than driver vehicles, because the robot that's driving your driverless Waymo is not texting, they're not drunk, they're not getting emotionally disturbed by other drivers flipping the bird on them. They're just doing what they're programmed to do. So, and it's only going to get better, and it's going to be able to expand. And right now, Waymo, max 4 passengers. The same thing is going to be with Zoox that's coming out, and of course, Tesla. But eventually, you're going to be seeing larger form factors. So you'll have mini buses that can take 10, 15, 20 passengers, and these can easily replace buses that we have now. In a lot of the Bay Area and a lot of California generally, buses usually operate with very few passengers. Typical bus load will be 8, 9, 10 passengers. So it would be very easy for an autonomous van to handle those kinds of loads. And in fact, they could run more frequently and get people where they need to go faster than the current drivered buses do.
Yeah, it definitely seems like what we're looking to do in California is double down and invest on something that maybe completely irrelevant, and yet we'll still be paying for it because this technology is advancing so quickly. There's no way to even predict at this point. But one thing that we have seen, especially in California, and it's true with BART, it's true with LA Metro, and it's obviously true with the high-speed rail, California cannot build these things fast enough to accommodate the people that would potentially use them.
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned that BART extension through San Jose. The proposed operating date for that is between 2037 and 2039. So, by then we'll probably all be, in flying vehicles, going from place to place. So yes, they can't get things done in real time, and they want to spend a lot of money in the process.
Marc Joffe, the president of the Contra Costa Taxpayers Association. The website, if you'd like to learn more about them, is cocotax.org. They are opposing this tax that's going to be on the ballot to fund transit agencies in the Bay. Marc Joffe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you're in the Bay Area, how would you be voting on this next year? Do you support increasing your sales taxes to bail out BART and Muni and the rest of the public transit agencies? In Southern California, are you going to vote yes on a bond measure to borrow money for the next 20 years to pay for the expansion of LA Metro? Will you raise your taxes to bail out public transit? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Would you vote yes to increase your taxes so there's more money for public transit in Northern California and Southern California? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. We'll take your calls next. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. We're taking your phone calls, 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. There is going to be a ballot measure next November to raise your taxes to bail out the Bay Area public transit agencies. BART, Muni, AC Transit, Caltrain, VTA, whatever you got, you're going to pay more in taxes because they cannot stay afloat. Would you support raising your taxes to bail out the public transit agencies? 800-222-5222. Let's start with Cheryl in Lake County. Cheryl, hello.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I became familiar with this situation last month when I had 3 vehicle breakdowns, and we live around a large lake. When I moved here, we did not have a bus system. But Lake Transit, I found out by riding the bus, being like sometimes the only rider on the bus, spending all kinds of revenue to just run around a few people very often. I began speaking with the bus driver, and I found out that we are basically a socialist bus system here already. And I think that there's many ways to bring in socialism, and I think this is what Zoran wants to do in New York, is what we have going on, probably in a lot of locations. And what he explained to me is that the $1.50 that you pay to go anywhere around the lake all day covers 1% of the cost, and the rest of it's federal grant, so taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
And
that's how a lot of these things work, and it's wild that people don't understand. Without the federal and state grants, these agencies don't make any money.
Not unlike affordable care, not unlike the medical system, and it doesn't make any sense. When I moved here, we had a thing called dial-a-ride, and people had beaters, and you'd pay $1 just in the city of Clear Lake. But now, it does go all around the lake, and I feel that I'd love to see Trump take this on because we don't have a governor that would do such a thing. I don't believe, even the next one. But he should take it on, nationwide and see, are they ushering in socialism through these bus systems, taking more and more of our tax money through bonds and all? And everybody should vote no on bonds. That's one thing I was taught about voting. Vote no if it's a bond. It means pay more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Randy. And you do a fine job when John's not around, too.
Well, thank you so much for that. I love hearing that. Thanks so much for the call, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know how you sell to Californians that we need to borrow money for the next 20 years when it's very possible the whole concept of Metro and BART and Muni won't exist in 20 years. The robo-car revolution is coming, people. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Would you vote to raise your taxes to bail out public transit agencies? More of your calls coming up next. It's Randy Wang on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here. Johnny's back on Thursday. If you'd like to email us, you could do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Aaron writes in, Randy, I'd love to take public transit, and recently when my car was in the shop, I had to go 15 miles, I had to take two different systems at a cost of $1,750 round trip. Until municipalities decide transit is a public good or decides to charge the real cost, these types of tax acts will never go away. So, on the ballot in the Bay Area next November is going to be an ask, will you raise your sales taxes to bail out BART, Muni, what have you, the public transit agencies that serve the Bay? In the entire state of California, there's going to be a bond measure to borrow $20 billion over the next 20 years to bail out transit agencies like LA Metro. Would you raise your taxes to bail out public transit? 800-222-5222. Let's go to Kurt in Belmont. Kurt, hello.
Hi. I moved up to San Francisco in '97, and I remember when I got up here, they temporarily raised the Bay Bridge toll from, I think it was 25 cents or 50 cents to 75 cents to help pay for some of the retrofit, and it was supposed to go away. And there were still people up here that were angry that they even had the repairs from the 1989 earthquake. They were still paying them off, and now I think the bridge toll is $8 or $9 with Fast Track. And then also, I used to take Muni when I lived in San Francisco when it was actually sort of convenient when I was in college and it was clean. And then about 2005, along with the rest of San Francisco, it sort of went.
Well, and that's one of the real problems here is, you know, if these systems were incredibly safe and incredibly clean, there's no reason a lot of people, especially in San Francisco, where parking is such a nightmare, that you'd use it to get around places. The fact that people aren't shows that, well, the people in charge aren't really doing a good job of handling it.
Oh, and the one time I went to England and Scotland, basically, I remember a stop of a bus there. And the driver went up and down the bus actually cleaning the bus. That was part of his job. In San Francisco, Muni drivers get off the bus, leave, and put on today, basically because no one touches those things. They are just utterly disgusting, which is why BART switched from cloth seats some years ago to plastic, because it's easier to clean and it doesn't hold, human feces and debris and bodily fluids and everything else.
Yeah, LA Metro did the same thing really recently. They switched to vinyl because it's a lot easier to wash you-know-what off of it. Kurt, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. And yeah, it is fascinating. I'm sure plenty of you listening have traveled to Europe, have traveled to Japan, where public transit is incredibly efficient and incredibly clean and incredibly safe. And there's not really that much of a difference outside of, the will to make that happen. Let's go to Paul in San Francisco. Paul, hello.
Yes, I'm a retired Muni operator for over 33 years for the Muni in San Francisco, and I am voting against that tax measure. The management of the Muni is political. They don't have security on their buses of any sort. There's backdoor boarding, so people don't have to pay a fare. And generally, the public is disrespected in the equipment. And people are intimidated by it. That's why they're not going to ride it. And by the way, Muni drivers don't have time at the end of the line to go clean up the buses, believe me. There's a lot of misconceptions about driving a bus in San Francisco. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Well, thank you so much for the call, Paul. Appreciate it. Let's go to Ray in Redondo Beach. Ray, hello.
Hello. You have several problems with the bus system. One is what's called the last mile problem. You get off your bus, then you've got to, get to your final destination because the buses don't go, to your house. If you have to carry groceries or whatever, that doesn't work. And if you look at the European model, they have to have it because their cities were built around the horse. And they don't have the streets that we do. So they have to have public transportation because there's nowhere it's very difficult to drive a car there. and you can't have a big car that because you won't be able to find parking. It's incredibly difficult up there to have a car in the major cities. But it's absolutely ridiculous to have us pay for buses that nobody uses. Do you know why they tint the windows? Because so that way you can't see that there's nobody in the buses, and you can't see the crime.
It's something that in Los Angeles County we see every single day. Every day on my commute home, have to stop in front of what they now call the G line, which is the giant bus that has its own per street for it in the San Fernando Valley. And there's a stoplight that is an extra stoplight before a major thoroughfare that sometimes backs up the entire Balboa Boulevard, and sometimes there's one bus with nobody on it, and sometimes there's no bus, but it doesn't matter. There's still another red light for me.
Yeah, they don't care. They'll make you just sit there forever because all they care about is the money for their department. That's all they want to do.
Well, and they're about to find a way to get a whole lot more of that money. Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. I'm sure if you looked at the budgets of LA Metro or BART and how much money's going towards, I don't know, transit ambassadors, there's definite waste, there's definite fraud, there's definite abuse. But if you could just ask the state for more money or the taxpayers for more money or the federal government for more money, well, then there you go. Let's go to Robert in Santa Clara. Robert, hello.
Hey, Randy. Yeah, down here in San Jose, if you're out in the light rail corridor, or even if they took that out, which Sam Liccardo said he went and rip it out, and when he was in a mood. He's probably not always in that mood. So stay on topic, though. You're going to get IMC Village, you're going to get Kelsey Air Station, and these crackheads are going to be hanging out in your neighborhood, and you're living in Ryland Park, and they're wandering through. They get a free bike, they get an allowance. They get they can have a pit bull they walk around with, and whether they wind that pit bull and put a muzzle on it around people. I mean, endless things. Little 5-story stack and packs just right at where there was formerly a little bungalow. They got a hold of the land right at the corner of San Carlos and Manker, and it's a drug den. It's you're not going to stop. I mean, if you got this attitude that you got to stick it to the privilege and normalize it, and you give them a guilt trip, and that's where my main point is. You were saying earlier, do we build our way out of this? I think the lady in the middle of these calls said we're going to have to compromise, but we're going to have to stand our ground on downgrading our neighborhoods and allowing these people who are going to be a threat to people. And it's not fair for these people who are normal, are working hard to get, the socialist Fluffington insane people, a free ride and have it infect their neighborhoods, and they have to put up with it.
I think that's a really, really, really good point, Robert. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. And the best example of that is what happened in Los Angeles County about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, LA County finished construction on what was then known as the Expo Line. And the Expo Line went from downtown Los Angeles and finished in Santa Monica. You could go from downtown LA to the beach. And while that sounds like a beautiful thing, and for the first couple of years it was really nice, what it turned Santa Monica into, and Santa Monica is a very, very expensive part of Southern California, and it turned Santa Monica into an end-of-the-line city because obviously the line ends at the ocean. And what that meant was you now have a train that people can get on in Skid Row and end up at the beach. And over the last 10 years, Santa Monica has become overrun with homelessness, and it is squarely, there's probably other reasons as well, but one of the biggest reasons is that train and the fact that there was no enforcement for the quality of life problems that were going on that train, especially in the last 5 to 6 years. Let's go to Mary in Roderick Park. Mary, hello.
Hi there, how are you?
Doing great.
Good. Anyway, I just wanted to say that all the revenue from the parking citations in San Francisco go to Muni as well.
That's true. And we've seen some insane ways that the parking people in San Francisco like to go after people. Like if you're parked in your own driveway, they wanted to give you tickets.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. That's just more revenue for the city. I don't know where it's all going. That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Here's the thing. If you're going to ask for a tax increase on everyone, the people that don't use your system, the people that do use your system. You got to open up those books and show us exactly where every dollar is going. They're public agencies. We should be able to see that anyway, but I guarantee you're going to find a whole lot of nonsense, as we have seen with so many other public agencies and public dollars. Hey, I got something nice for you. Let's do this. 790 KABC welcomes the Village People to the Canyon and Agora Hills on November 21st. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com. But right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing. It's Randy Wang here on The John Phillips Show. It's Randy Wang here, and we just got a few more minutes. Then I get to hop on the 405 freeway, suffer through the traffic, have a little lunch, and then get ready to prep for the next show. In Southern California, I do a 1-hour show every day. Comes on after Mr. Frank Motek, called The News Blitz with Randy Wang. You can hear it from 5 to 6 on KABC. If you're in the Bay and you want to listen to it, well, just go to KABC.com or download the KABC app. You know, we just talked about Santa Monica and how the Expo line was instrumental into the explosion of homelessness there. You also had things like, I don't know, Barbara Ferrer's needle exchange program.
But at the end of the day.
And a real lax towards public safety and not dealing with the crime that was out there, that you're starting to see all kinds of institutions in Santa Monica close and go out of business. While so many places are coming back, and San Francisco is coming back, and Union Square is coming back. They got that Nintendo store I want to go visit. Santa Monica, the Nordstrom's is gone. The 3rd Street Promenade is half empty. And now a high-end destination in Santa Monica, the Blue Plate Oysterette, is saying bye-bye. And if you want to know why, well, I think you already do, but let's do the sound anyway. Here's Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
No, 10, one of the staples of Ocean Avenue in Santa Monica is closing.
A Santa Monica restaurant that's practically on the beach can't make it. What does that say?
Is closing.
The Blue Plate Oysterette is closing after a 16-year run. Fox 11's Matthew.
It's wild to think about. You know, not a decade ago, but 15 years ago, you know, Santa Monica was a destination. The traffic would be terrible getting there, and the parking would be awful, but you'd make it work because it was fun to walk around. It felt safe. There were great bars, great restaurants. Oh, my goodness. Bay City's Italian Deli. I know they had a hell shut down a few months ago. I'm going to ignore that because I love that sandwich.
Fox 11's Matthew Seedorf. He's live there in Santa Monica with reaction from locals who are really sad to see this go. Matthew.
Yeah, Marla, tonight a lot of people, including the owner, are upset that this restaurant is closing. She says she didn't want this to happen.
Well, who would want their restaurant to close, especially when you're in that valuable of a piece of real estate?
Another major shakeup in Santa Monica. The Blue Plate Oysterette, a local favorite, now set to shut down.
This is where you come to celebrate a birthday. It's a very special spot.
For 16 years, Blue Plate Oysterette has added flavor to Santa Monica's prime Ocean Avenue. But in January, their doors will close for good.
We are very sad. We're sad to be leaving the community.
Owner Jennifer Rush blames California laws she feels favor workers instead of owners.
Well, there's also that. It is very, very expensive to run a restaurant in California, and the margins are so thin.
Big changes need to happen in California for small business owners.
Along with rising costs, safety concerns, and nearby homelessness.
Oh, yeah, there's also all that.
We go to the park across the street, and it's illegal to have a glass of wine, yet people are sitting there doing drugs across the street in the park, and nothing seems to happen.
Yeah, that's the part where people see that when you see, and this was so true, and it's getting better in San Francisco, but there's still a lot of work to do. When you see people openly doing drugs in a place that's supposed to be a public place, like, I don't know, the 3rd Street Promenade, Ocean Avenue, or San Francisco, Union Square, you don't come back for a very, very, very long time. Those kind of images are what will make you really like, well, nope, can't go to that part of town anymore. I remember last time I was walking around San Francisco with my wife, and we were staying in the financial district. We were walking towards the Embarcadero, wanted to go to this place that had gluten-free clam chowder because my wife is gluten-free. And, most of the city is beautiful. It's a gorgeous place. It is so much fun. But you start walking a little too far on Market Street, and you start seeing some stuff in the alleys that you cannot unsee.
And it's illegal to have a glass of wine, yet people are sitting there doing drugs across the street in the park, and nothing seems to happen.
This video after she says a homeless person slashed the restaurant's patio screens with a knife.
Oh, my. Yeah, I'm not surprised they're leaving. Are you?
We've had break-ins.
There's plenty of people in Newport Beach that would like an oyster place. Plenty of people in Long Beach doesn't have it this bad. Long Beach has issues, but it's not as bad as Santa Monica.
We've had break-ins. Our staff doesn't feel safe, and tourists see that and they don't want to come back.
The big reason why there's not the foot traffic.
Can you imagine paying $300 for your oyster lunch to celebrate someone's birthday, and you're staring out at the ocean and you see somebody injecting a needle into their arms? Not worth it.
There's a lot of homeless here, and there's been a lot of crime, and people don't feel as safe.
Another vacant building.
In recent months, Fox 11 has reported on several businesses closing in Santa Monica.
Has it been broken into 3 times?
Many blaming the same struggles.
But even I will not wear my AirPods during the day here. You got to watch yourself. You got to be ready.
You can't go for a oceanfront walk staring at the beach without making sure that you don't listen to music or talk radio. Some people do that. We encourage it. Because you got to be aware of your surroundings, that you can hear when somebody is screaming to the high heavens and carrying around a knife.
But even I will not wear my AirPods during the day here. You got to watch yourself. You got to be ready.
What needs to happen in Santa Monica?
More of a police presence and not offering so many resources that are out in the public. Needle exchange.
Yeah, that has to end. And every member of the LA County Board of Supervisors that continues to support that nonsense, the Barbara Ferrer needle exchange programs that are right in parks in Santa Monica near the 3rd Street Promenade, that stuff has got to go. And by the way, it's not even a needle exchange. You can grab a needle. You don't have to give one back. You can have 2 needles and then sell one to your friend, and then you got $10 for that hit of Fenty.
Yeah.
We just allow this. Again, this was a gorgeous, expensive, annoying city, but gorgeous city not that long ago.
Food, I think that should be separated out and kept away from the downtown area.
The owner has 2 other businesses in the area. She says that they're going to stay open for now, but she hopes this environment changes soon. We're live tonight in Santa Monica. Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
It'll change when the people who live in Santa Monica vote for people that will make it change. That city has had a lot of problems, including a messed up city manager and all kinds of issues. Let's go to Dale in Long Beach before we go. Dale, hello.
Hello, Randy. Hey, are you aware that Karen Bass is supposed to appear before a federal judge, David Carter, on November 12th to address the city's issue of contempt of court, along with her city council president, Harris Dawson?
I did read that, yes, because they, once again, are not following the law when it comes to this settlement with the Homeless Alliance. They are always deflecting. They never want to show you where the money's going, because if they did, well, we know where it's going. It's going to grift.
I miss the good old days, Randy, when the homeless people pretend they wanted to work and would hold up signs that would say, "We'll work for food," or they would smear up your window with a spray bottle and want $1 for cleaning your window.
Oh, those were the days, weren't they? Dale, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for us today here. I will be back on the radio on 790 KABC at 5 p.m., so listen to the KABC app or KABC.com if you want to stream that if you're in the Bay Area. Regardless, I'll be back noon to 3 tomorrow. Johnny's back on Thursday. It's Randy Wang on The John Phillips Show.